Hi guys, this is Michelle, and today's video is going to be yet another pop culture conspiracy theories for you guys. I love filming these videos. Pop culture theories are some of my favorites to do. Before we get into it, I really wanted to talk about my weight loss channel. I'm going to be posting a lot on there. I've been posting so much on my weight loss TikTok, so please go follow me on those if you want to follow my weight loss journey. Without further ado, let's get into the pop culture theories. So the first theory I want to talk about has to do with JFK. I feel like I can't believe I've never talked about this theory. There's more interesting things to talk about, like Marilyn Monroe and everything just regarding JFK in general. But this theory actually is really interesting, and it is the magic bullet theory. Let's get into it. So when JFK was assassinated, it was revealed that one singular bullet was the same bullet that went through JFK, killing him, and through John, not killing him but injuring him. And he sat in the front seat, JFK sat in the back, but like over here. So it kind of makes no sense how the bullet traveled like that. Critics often refer to this as the magic bullet theory, is kind of like a sarcastic tone to basically talk about the fact that it would be pretty much impossible for a singular bullet to go through two grown men and come out looks like a brand new bullet. Also, a lot of the time, a bullet doesn't really go through someone, like it will stay in their body. And like that's kind of like a whole part of like having to get the bullet out. It's like a thing. This bullet remained completely intact and was found on one of the hospital gurneys nearby. And people really feel like this all just felt a little too set up in a way, which led people to believe that there were actually multiple shooters at the time, which obviously opens up a lot of questionable doors. For instance, why wouldn't the government try to figure out who this second shooter could have possibly been, or really tried to explore that theory? Answer being, perhaps the government allegedly wanted JFK dead. I think this is a really interesting concept because maybe allegedly the government or somebody found out that Lee Harvey Oswald had this plan to kill JFK, and you know, maybe they were like, okay, maybe they just decided to be an extra gunman to make sure that the job got done. I don't know. I just think that that's really suspicious and really crazy, and it's probably like extremely unlikely, like almost like impossible for it to have just been one bullet. So it's likely that there was a second shooter. But it is still unknown to this day, so that's kind of concerning. Yeah, I saw this and I thought it was a really interesting theory, but I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on it. Alright, the next theory that we're going to be talking about is one that I saw on TikTok about how the Kardashians are potentially a coven of witches. First, I was confused when I saw this theory because obviously a lot of people have talked about the Kardashian Curse regarding men, and like they've even talked about it, how like it seems like men just like have very unlucky like or unfortunate things happen to them while they're dating the Kardashians, slash like the reason they can't keep a man. I'm gonna like put quotes around that because I don't really believe that part of it. Apparently a long time ago, this is like generations of generations back, a woman named Keiko Kardashian, who apparently is like the great grandmother of the Kardashians, basically asked a coven of witches to cast a spell on her that she would be willing to face public humiliation in order for her children and future Kardashians down the line to be super successful and famous. And apparently this is true. I think it's like impossible to fact check this. But I guess the Kardashians have talked about this like a little bit, saying that like one of their ancestors asked a witch to bring positive like fame to their family line, and obviously we see that that has happened. I just think it's a little bit of an interesting concept because I've seen so many times on the show where they go to psychics, they are very involved like spiritually. And I think it's really interesting because it seems like they were like almost destined to be famous the way that they are. A lot of people are like, okay, like there's no talent there, there's no that, but I mean, obviously they've been keeping people entertained for like several years. So I think it's an interesting concept that was due to a deal made by their ancestor. I don't know. I think it's really interesting. It also goes into saying that like, because they chose this like route of fame, the great grandmother also chose that her lineage would only have this like financial and, you know, glamour kind of like materialistic things go for them, like beauty and money and fame, but like when it came to their personal relationships they would have a lot of hardships, which is where people got the idea that the Kardashian curse is real. I don't know, what do you guys think of this? People always talk about the Kardashian curse like it's a huge thing, that like all the men, like Scott Disick, like I'm pretty sure said that he like believes it, which I don't know. I think it's kind of bullshit, but I think the witch theory is interesting and kind of fun. It just like kind of makes you think, like, did all of our ancestors talk to witches, or if they were witches, like cast spells on our future lineages? Sounds pretty interesting to me. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this and your thoughts on the Kardashian curse in general. Do you think it's true? Do you think it's bullshit? I would love to know. But I do think it's interesting. The curse that they've made for themselves is like a very interesting concept in general, so I don't know. Next few theories I want to talk about regard method acting. A lot of you guys have been talking about method acting all over TikTok because of Austin Butler. Austin Butler just recently played Elvis Presley in a new movie. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. And a lot of people are talking about how he took his method acting like very seriously, and he now has an accent, and he's like kind of slipped into this role of like Elvis that like he can't kind of get out of.
You kind of lift each other up as much as possible, and you can't go wrong, I don't think.
I mean, it's that thing where I'm an enormous Beatles fan and an enormous Paul McCartney fan, and I'm in this place right now where these things are happening that I mean, that, like that story you just told me.
This like made me think about the times that I feel like method actors took it a little bit too far, and I want to talk about them. First one that we're going to talk about is Heath Ledger. So Heath Ledger, of course, famously played the Joker before his death, and he did incredible, but he really like threw himself into this role. As part of Heath's method acting, he ended up actually locking himself in his hotel room, isolating himself for weeks on end, just to get himself into the deranged psyche of this character. Heath's father actually spoke about this, saying that Heath always loved to throw himself and really dive into the roles that he played, but with the Joker particularly, he very much turned it up a notch. So Christian Bale, who played Batman alongside Heath Ledger, ended up telling how one time there was like a scene where Heath actually wanted Christian to actually hit him, like not just like a stage punch or stage fight. He wanted him to actually hit him. And Christian kind of explained this as that the way that the Joker kind of liked it when Batman would like beat him up and stuff, like it kind of kept him going. He said that the same thing happened with Heath, like he kind of was like egging him on the whole time. Christian Bale also claimed that Heath Ledger would like bang his head onto these tile walls that were used for set, and they would completely crack and had so many dents all in them, which is just kind of scary. Heath also got to the point where he couldn't sleep at night because he was so engulfed by the Joker's thoughts, which is like terrifying. I mean, it's like really cool that he was able to like throw himself into this role. Obviously he did like incredible, but it's kind of scary to think that like if you're playing like this like psychopath, really get into that like that kind of mindset for like a normal person, and someone who's like not a psychopath would be really hard and really scary as well. But Heath really did this, and even though he like didn't sleep for months, he was really proud of his work and he did great. So yeah, but that was definitely method acting where people actually think that it could have led in certain ways to Heath's death because he overdosed on sleeping pills, that perhaps because of his, you know, intense method acting as the Joker, he wasn't able to sleep, which ended up making him take sleeping pills. I don't know if I would go that far, but I do think that it is a really sad and like scary overall. The next method actor I want to talk about is Ross Lynch. I love Ross Lynch. You guys know I've loved Ross for so long. In 2017, he actually ended up playing the infamous serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer. For Ross's role as Jeffrey Dahmer in the movie My Friend Dahmer, he was essentially playing Jeffrey before he had killed anybody. It's like him in high school. It's like based on this book that was written by one of Jeffrey's friends. Ross like really found himself getting into this role. Ross claimed that his emotions like completely changed while filming this, and he was not his like regular happy-go-lucky self. He was kind of isolated to himself a little bit more, and it was just really out of character for him. The one thing that I'm like Ross too much is that when they filmed at Jeffrey Dahmer's like actual childhood home, apparently Ross said that like it kind of felt like home. Like he really felt like Jeffrey Dahmer. Ross also claimed that the challenge wasn't to get into Dahmer's head, but it was to get out of it, which is really scary. He would go home at night after filming and like really like take his showers as like a moment to like decompress, and he said that it made him feel like he was like shedding Dahmer and like becoming Ross again. Ross claimed that towards the end of filming My Friend Dahmer, he found himself becoming really like numb to emotions and really to himself, and he thought that this was an interesting pattern because towards the end of the movie, Dahmer like goes on to like do these terrible things himself. Like Jeffrey Dahmer kind of became more isolated, became really to himself. You know, you see him kind of lose his humanity and ultimately end up doing like terrible things, which Ross claims that towards the end of filming he felt like super to himself and super antisocial, which is like so not like Ross. So Alex Wolff, who played Jeffrey Dahmer's best friend Durf, said that the look in Ross's eye, like he like almost had like a dead look to him, and it was really terrifying to see because he said it was like not like Ross at all when he was like filming the scenes. Like he actually felt like he was with Jeffrey Dahmer and like not with Ross Lynch, which is just terrifying. I can't, like, that's so scary. I think that's like scarier than the Joker, to be honest, because like this is like a legit person. And you can like, you meet their friends, and he did. His friends, his family, went to his family house. Like it's like so much easier to engulf yourself into a role that's like of an actual person than the Joker or something like fictional. So I'm glad Ross just doesn't feel like he's in the mind of a serial killer anymore. That's good. But it made me nervous at the time. I remember reading that and I was like, girl. So speaking of Elvis, like we were before, I want to talk about the theory that Elvis Presley is still alive. I don't really believe this anymore. I will say I did believe this very strongly as a kid, because of that one episode of Full House where Elvis Presley is alive. I don't know if you guys remember, but like there's an episode where Uncle Jesse like sees Elvis like at a bar or something, and it's like legit Elvis, but it's not. He was dead by then. But either way, I'm just saying, I always believed this. But, I mean, Full House was obviously decades ago, so as you guys maybe know, since the day that Elvis died, people were already speculating that he was still alive. Apparently, on the day of his death, August 16th, 1977, a man traveled to the Memphis airport, which was where Elvis lived at the time, purchased a one-way ticket to Argentina. The man apparently looked a lot like Elvis, but he gave the name John Burroughs, which was actually a known alias that Elvis was always giving at hotels and stuff. Many Elvis fans claim that they saw a man who looked like Elvis walking around Argentina the day that he died, which was confusing because they had heard the news that he passed away, so they were like, what the fuck? Since then, there's been freaking millions of Elvis sightings. I feel like they were so popular, there's so many. But most famously, I think, or at least one of the most famous ones that I've seen, is that people think that Elvis was in Home Alone in 1990. I just feel like, why would he be in Home Alone? Like, I don't know, but I think this series is interesting. I totally get why someone like Elvis would fake his death, because he was like really famous, and I feel like the only way of getting out of being like super famous like that is to fake your death. So I think it's an interesting concept. That's it for today's video. If you guys liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about these pop culture theories, and if you guys have any theories as well, let me know below. Guys, and make sure you follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, because I'm always posting really dope ass shit on there. Subscribe for new videos every week, and I will see you guys later. Bye.